Welcome to Sweeping or Guiding with the Frontline. Thank you so much for stepping up and becoming a leader on the text team. This brief training is designed to get you started with sweeping the Frontline Texters Slack channel. We know it's a lot to cover, so we'll also be on hand to walk through a sweep or two together. You will also need the written guide, which is available in the Texting Hub. We will go over the different leadership roles and responsibilities for the frontline so you know where you fit in. A tiny bit about our types of campaigns so you know what to look for, how to use our tools, Airtable and Spoke, and where to find the materials you need for your shifts. First, let's go over why guides are so important. During each shift, texters and staff can do a lot. However, we can't do it all by ourselves. Guides amplify the work of individuals to grow the team. They review the text volunteers send to make sure there's nothing risky happening, and even more importantly, coach texters to be even better organizers who can become volunteer leaders themselves. They also make the frontline a supportive and growing community. Thanks so much for being here with us. Each campaign will have its own goals and unique audiences. The initial message that we send to voters will give you a big clue to what kind of campaign we're running and how to proceed from there. In general, the Frontline will be running two main types of campaigns. One, a turnout campaign, which is going to ask folks to turn out for something. For example, we will ask people to sign the pledge, volunteer, or show up for an event. Closer to the election, we will also be doing GOTV or Get Out the Vote campaigns. In this case, we'll be reaching out to people either to make a plan to vote or actually vote. For both types of campaigns, we'll usually be texting people who we either predict will support us or have previously identified as supporters. It is important to keep the campaign type in mind as it will ground you when thinking about how texters should be handling their conversations with voters. Let's look at how you fit in with the various types of volunteer leaders. Everyone is a texter from the first day that they start. The goal is to text in support of the frontline. Reply specialists are experienced texters who can pick up replies when texters are done with their shifts or for the day. They've done a little extra training on how to customize their responses and are good at going it alone. It's best if you understand everything they do and how to handle texts like they do, as you'll be using those skills. Moderators work in Slack to help answer questions and keep the momentum going. They answer the help needed tags and other questions that come in and post helpful announcements. The operator role is generally filled by a staff member, but can sometimes be a volunteer. This person steers the ship, knows which campaigns to open, helps volunteer leaders fill shifts, and troubleshoots. Guides review texters' text messages after they've sent them or sweep messages for quality. They coach other texters on doing even better. You will use tools like advanced permissions, InSpoke, and our database, Airtable. There are three main goals for a guide. You will be reviewing texters' messages for risk and quality control and evaluating for next level skills. You'll also be tracking the sweeps and feedback using Airtable. And finally, you'll give feedback to texters. Let's go over our main tool, Airtable. If you haven't used it before, it can seem a bit daunting, but it's basically a fancy version of Excel. You'll only be using it in two ways: finding and marking off texters that you sweep, and filling out a simple form to give feedback. You want to go ahead and access the campaign assignments table in Airtable. This is linked in the sweeping guide for easy access. You shouldn't need to do anything but click that link. The texters are in the order they need to be swept in. So number one is the highest priority. Start from the top. Click the plus sign in the cell in the guide sweeping column and add your name. Make a note of the campaign numbers to the right of the texter's name. Your next step is to open the sweep form that you'll be using to log your sweep and send feedback to the texter. Click the green sweep link. This will open the sweep form in a new tab. The texter and the campaign will be pre-populated. You'll just need to add your name and the rest of the information, which we'll go over a little later. As a tip, if you end up sweeping multiple campaigns, you can come back and add those later. Now you're ready to find your texter in Spoke in the Message Review panel. In Spoke, you want to click Message Review. Click the down arrow next to Message Review to expand the panel. Start typing the texter's name that you want to sweep. Once the name pops up, select Search Sender instead of Assignments. This is important because the texter might have released their contacts when they were done sending text messages, and we want to make sure that we're able to see all of their texts. Enter the campaign numbers that you want to review. You can add more than one. Select 3 kinds of messages. The first is Needs Texter Response. These are messages where the voter has replied most recently. Secondly, Active Conversation, where the texter has responded most recently. And Close. These are conversations where the texter has clicked Skip. You want to review the texter's messages. You'll want to check about 20 messages or so. To access them, click the square with the arrow. The conversation will expand into a smaller square. If you want to view the whole conversation, click Go to Conversation. The conversation will open in a new tab. This will show you the conversation exactly as the texter sees it, including the canned responses. Once you've viewed a nice sampling of messages, return to the Message Review filter so you can review the opted out messages. You want to toggle the Not Opted Out toggle off and turn the Opted Out toggle on. Leave everything else the same. Review the opted out messages just like you did with the other messages. A little red no sign indicates that the voter has been opted out. If you see any opt-outs, opt them out. Opt-outs are so important that we just need to take care of them. On the message review table, you might see error 133. This is a good error. It means that the voter replied with a word that triggers Spoke to automatically remove them from our list. Texters never see these messages and don't have any action to take. Once you've done this, reassign the messages you've reviewed to the operator or staff member on duty. This makes sure that the messages don't get reviewed by the next sweeper. To do this, you want to select all of the messages you've reviewed with the checkbox next to the message. Click the down arrow next to Message Actions. Search for the name of the person you'll be reassigning to, then click Reassign Selected. Once you're done, click over to your sweeper form. This is another Airtable tool, but is outside of the original table you used. This is where you'll record your sweep. Filling out this form will document the sweep and automatically send feedback to the texter. At the top, fill in your name by clicking Add a Collaborator. Find the texter you're reviewing and add them. If you have any trouble finding them, let us know in Slack. Add the campaigns you reviewed. If you looked at texts from multiple campaigns, please add them all. Check off any observed skills. A key to those skills is available in the sweeping guide. Also, enter the number of conversations you've reviewed and how many errors you noticed. It's okay if these numbers aren't exact. This information will not go to the texter. Next, fill out the notes to the texter. We'll give tips on that in just a minute. These notes will go to the texter, so make sure you're ready to send when you submit the form. Then add a final evaluation code. This will not go to the texter. In general, you'll be selecting Continue Reviewing. If you're not sure if you should select something else, please check in on Slack. We are here as a resource for you, and just know that you can always communicate any confusion, questions, comments, whatever it may be to us. And then you want to just go ahead and submit your form. Your last step in a sweep is to mark it off in Airtable. Return to the campaign assignment view where you claimed your sweep. Check the box that the sweep is complete. The row will disappear because you did it. Optionally, you can send a direct message to the texter with a note thanking them for texting and giving them a heads up that they'll receive a message from Slackbot and offering to answer any questions. Now that we've got the technical part down, let's go over what we're looking for and how to leave feedback. This is also covered in the written guide. The first thing to look for when reviewing text is the risk factors. Are texters opting out people appropriately? Opt-outs are super important. Everyone who asks to be removed from the list must be. This is so important because every texter must follow it, and if the person you're reviewing is not getting it, they probably should not be texting until we talk with them about it. 1 or 2 mistakes are fine. Consistent mistakes warrant a conversation. If while reviewing messages you see a missed opt-out, please go ahead and opt out the voter. We are legally and ethically required to do this. The second thing to watch out for won't come up very often, but is very important. Keep your eyes out for folks who are intentionally engaging in bad behavior. This can look like swearing, debating, arguing, being pro-Trump, racist, etc. Immediately flag this texter for staff and fill out the troll tracker, which will inform us of a bad actor in our texting program. A less urgent but still important thing to keep an eye out for are folks who are inadvertently causing a risk by engaging in debates that they think are respectful but could ultimately lead to more problems. Remember that everything texters say could end up on social media. While texters are generally acting in good faith, voters are not and are trying to trick us into saying something they can spread around. So keep your eyes out for folks who look like they might be tempted to engage a little too much. Next, keep your eye on the basics. If you're unsure, refer back to the Texting 102 slideshow found in the Texting Hub. First, does the texter seem to be finding the canned responses and tags? Although this seems obvious, sometimes texters haven't figured out spoke. This often happens when they're on the phone or tablet or skipped any and all training materials. Next, you want to check to see if they're using the priority of responses. Remember, if they've missed an opt-out, opt out that voter. Third, check to see if they're using the correct response available to them or use the help needed tag. One of the big things that trips people up is the different no options. So it's a good idea to review that before beginning. Folks also aren't aware of all the canned responses, or they're linked on the homepage of each campaign. Finally, make sure that as the conversation progresses, texters aren't getting jumbled and start to repeat language or sound robotic. Also, check for next level texting. We don't tell texters that they can't modify their text. In fact, we want them to be humans. So if you see someone engaging and modifying their text particularly well, flag them in the leads channel as a potential reply specialist, or send them a direct message encouraging them to take that next step and join us as a lead texter. Things you should be looking out for in general. 1, is the texter going off script? And are they keeping the content of the message and the ask intact? If not, they need to get back to that. We've crafted these messages and canned responses intentionally to flow and get people on board. Next is the personalization that they're doing appropriate to both the conversation and the goals of the frontline. And finally, remember the CAS. These texters likely aren't familiar with the CAS, so it's okay if they're not getting it all correct. Use your feedback as an opportunity to give them these tricks and share what you know. Finally, when you're giving feedback, think about writing it as a sandwich. Start with praise and thanks, give feedback, and then end with praise and thanks. We want the texter to feel super supported and leave them wanting to come back. We're not going to go into a deep dive around language for the sweeping on this video, but you can access sample language in the sweeping guide, which you will all have access to, and always feel free to ask for help in Slack. If you need more help, these guides should help you and can be located in the Texting Hub. Thank you all so much for being here and helping make the Frontline great and helping us grow this movement together.